All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Monday, December 2nd, about 12:15 here. 4-hour candle just closed. I'm really happy to be back, and I'm glad that you're joining me for another Monday Bitcoin analysis. Before I go ahead and switch over to the charts, I just want to say that I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, got some shopping done on Black Friday. I know that myself, I was super busy. My friend's daughter was actually born on Thanksgiving, and then all the Thanksgiving festivities. Plus, it was my daughter's second birthday just yesterday. So I've been extremely busy this weekend, but I'm glad to be back and get into another week of trading. So let's go ahead, take a look at the charts and see what we see. And hopefully there's going to be some good setups this week. All right, guys. So the first time that I recorded this video, my microphone was actually not on. So I'm doing this again real quick. But anyway, here we are on the weekly chart. And honestly, what this tells me, we had a month of really hardcore bear momentum, which is pretty much what I said on the last video. And this candle right here doesn't really scream super bullish to me. It just doesn't. The range on it is from 65.50 to about 78.50. So, I mean, it's got a pretty decent $2,000 range in here, but the actual candle body itself was maybe only like $400 or $500. So this, to me, this situation here, it looks more like this, where, you know, we got some bullish momentum. We had, 3 or 4 weeks of really bearish momentum. We got one bullish weekly candle, and then we continued our way down. A lot of people are calling for lower lows, before the end of the year and stuff, and that's certainly possible. We haven't really dipped below 75.25 yet this year. A lot of people are calling for 61, which is a possibility, but there are some pretty significant historical levels of resistance that we would have to break through in order to see those price levels. When we did dip down into those lows, we were getting into an area of a lot lower volume here. Normally, this is associated with CME gaps and stuff like that. Part of this drop, there was a gap up here somewhere. I forgot exactly where it was. Let's see. Long, shorts. Dominance is at 68% right now. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the CME gap chart in a couple minutes here. But as of right now, as it stands on the weekly chart, this is not a very good situation. We could very easily come down. All we have to do is really drop down a few $100s, and that would make a brand new bearish engulfing candle, which would signify definitely long-term, newer lows, into the new year. So switching over to a daily chart here. This is pretty much what we've had. It looks like we had this really slow grind down until we got to about 8,000 or so, and then we pretty much just fell right off a cliff. This was our telling bottom with this really long drastic wick down when we hit our low of about 65.25, 65.30, and then obviously we bounced back up. Right now, I feel like we're in a corrective stage right now, and this is looking like an ABC to me. This is pretty much the count that I have right now. I'm going to go ahead, and this is more of a count that's for the 1 hour chart, because like I said, I haven't been around because of the holidays and stuff. I tend to not do nearly as much trading around the holidays just because I spend a lot more time with family and stuff like that. But I'll leave that for just a little bit. If we're taking a look at our momentum indicators here, it does look like overall we're starting to get some bullish momentum, but we're still quite a ways off, from crossing that threshold. And our RSI indicator up here is just not looking too good. Obviously, we got a bounce and stuff, and now we're starting to head back down. So overall, the trend is definitely down. This is still definitely bearish. If we take a look at our 12-hour chart, pretty much more of the same, and it's looking like we're not going to break that bullish threshold here on our momentum indicators. Our RSI is sitting right at around 40. I mean, these are pretty obvious things that I don't necessarily have to go over with you guys. You guys are familiar with RSI and how it works. most of you are familiar with spotting hidden divergence or just regular bearish or bullish divergence by now. So these aren't really things that I'm going to go over too heavily. Obviously, we did have this bullish divergence here just before the holidays and stuff. You know, we made new higher lows on our RSI, but we were making lower lows in price. Then we got this really big pin bar here. That was definitely a really good long position to be in. And if we come down to our 1 hour chart here, you can see that that was basically the start of a 5-wave sequence up. So taking a look at the count that I have here, basically I started from our pivot point here and just started new labeling on the lower intervals. So pretty much what I have is for right now is this. I think right now, obviously this was a 5-wave sequence up. It's extremely clear to me. Fourth wave only just barely touched into wave 1 territory. It didn't close beyond. So this is completely valid for that. And so we have, on the smaller degree, we have a 5-wave sequence down into an A right now. And then I have our ABC correction of our B of the larger interval here. So I do think that with the sideways momentum that we're seeing right now, I definitely think that we will be coming up for our C of our B wave here very shortly. We basically just have to get a close above 7,300. I think if that happens, we definitely will be touching a C wave here, and that will be a flat correction for our B wave of the larger degree. And then after that, we're probably going to be testing our support down here at least one more time, where our 2 wave was around the 68.80 area. So that's pretty much what I have in terms of Elliott wave. If we go ahead and take this off, let's go ahead and take a look at our Ichimoku. So clearly we tried to use the bottom of the cloud here as support for quite some time, and it didn't really work out too great. Once we broke into the cloud, we had this very drastic drop. As soon as this candle closed and we opened up a new one in the cloud, we had this drastic drop. We tried to come up, we got rejected off of our 50 and our 100 EMA. And then we kind of used the bottom of the cloud as support, and we got crunched into this zone between the bottom of the cloud and the 50 EMA, where we rejected a second time. And again, once our candles started coming below, once the price action started coming below this cloud, that's when it was just all hell broke loose. I believe this was last night when this occurred, and this was actually a really good short that I played when we ended up breaking below the cloud here. So with that said, we're basically just getting a lot of sideways momentum. We've seen this plenty of times before, where we just get a lot of large wicks both in each direction until slowly the volume kind of just tapers off, and then we end up getting a move in one direction or the other. Now, I do think that if we get a move up, I told you guys that the 7,300 area was definitely very important, and I do think that if we come up with some good momentum here, we could test the top of the Ichimoku Cloud. That's why I have these labels up here, is because they line up very nicely with where, look at where the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen is, and, our 200 EMA, our 50 and our 100 EMA. It would make sense to me that if we did come up with some bullish volume, that we could be testing the top of this cloud to finish a flat and our ABC of our larger B wave before rejecting here and coming back down. Now, obviously, the overall trend is still bearish. We do have on the lower time frame here on the 1 hour, we do have a red cloud starting to form, a pretty significant one for the 1 hour chart, I might add. Which is why my target, at least for the short term, would be down here. Now, keep in mind also that this count is definitely on the smaller, this is on the smaller degrees here. This is all part of a larger count. So this is at least what I see in the short term, over the next couple days, or, by the end of the week or so. If we go ahead and we turn on our indicators here, let's go ahead and turn the Ichimoku off. If we take a look at our indicators on these lower time frames, what they tell us is that there's not really divergence going on right now, right? We're getting lower lower highs in momentum and on our price action, as well as our other momentum indicator down here. So not really too much to be looking out for here on the 1 hour time frame. On the 15-minute time frame, there was divergence last night. There was some hidden bearish divergence up here somewhere. I forgot where it was. But we did end up getting divergence before we had this big drop, and that was a pretty telling sign that we were going to be coming down. And now, you know, even on this really low 15-minute time frame, you can just see we're just kind of tapering back and forth, and just forming this really, really tight range here. I also wanted to add that, let me come back up to a 1 hour time frame real quick. I also want to add that I haven't seen too many people or too many other chartists really point this out, but we did have, I originally had this as a wedge. I think I had it connected to here. It was like this. It was one of these wicks or whatever. But this was it wasn't super apparent, but it was getting more and more obvious as this bull run went on that we were kind of forming some kind of wedge here with this price action. And what ended up happening is once we neared the top of that, we just kind of tapered off in price. We formed another tight range here, and then that's what ended up once we got a close. Once this pin bar closed below, that's what started our wave 3 on this smaller degree here. So I just want to point that out for you guys real quick. All in all, I don't know right now on the smaller time frames as if it would be worth it to put a long in right now. I think that would be a little bit more on the risky side personally, just because this doesn't really look ready to long yet. I mean, I would definitely want to see a candle close above our resistance here. I can actually make this red. I definitely want to see a candle close above this. We saw one candle close above this, and it wasn't a full candle. It was just a doji. So that, you know, that doesn't really count as a full candle close above this line. And we haven't gotten one since we were back here. So I would definitely like to see a candle close above this before I put a long in, you know, to potentially see, you know, previous highs, at least double tap this up here at 74, 72 or so before coming back down. So that's really all I have for you guys today. I did mention that I wanted to go over the CMEs, but before I do that real quick, I wanted to take a look at not Brave New Coin. Where is it? Let's just take a look at the CMEs now, the futures chart. I like looking at this on a 1 hour chart because it's a little more obvious to see the gaps here. This is one of the gaps that we still have not filled. I think we have one more down here, another small one down here, but I don't think that we're going to be coming down into the 5K territory. But basically what ended up happening is we had this one gap here, which was very significant, and that was part of our second half of this major uptrend where we shot up $3,000 before we started grinding back down. This gap I would consider filled with this price action that we had in here. But now we're starting to get into an area where we haven't previously filled this gap, and we've just wicked into it a couple times. So I do think that if we start seeing closes around this level at like 6,800 or so, if we see a close in this, I think we're going to jump drastically down, probably to about $6,200 or $6,100. I know that that's a very popular area that a lot of other chartists have been calling for, and I do certainly think that that is a possibility if the levels that we're at right now don't hold. So coming back to the chart that I was just previously on, is my chart going to load or what? What's going on here? Doesn't look like my chart wants to load. I don't know what's going on. Just refresh this real quick. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. All right. As I was saying, if our C wave here, if we end up coming below these levels, another reason why I have this at 6,800 is because a very important price zone with our CME futures chart. So if we start seeing closes below this, if this level doesn't hold and we start seeing multiple closes below this, then I definitely think that our next area of support down at between 65 and 6,200 down here is probably going to be in play for the longer term. So that's definitely something to be watching out for. I definitely plan on shorting this. A short term like Deegan long up to this C wave with volume above 7,300 would be a good like short term scalp play. But midterm, I'm definitely planning on shorting these levels. Like I want to be able to short from 74 to probably 7,700. For the next wave down. I definitely don't think that the bear market is over. And I think that we're probably going to be in a downtrend for some time, at least until probably the end of the month. And that's taking into account that these counts that I have for the very large intervals are actually still valid. And that's why I have these question marks here, because it's going to be quite some time until we actually get confirmation of, was this our bottom? Are we pivoting here? Or are we going to make new lows? So with that said, that is pretty much all I got for you guys today. Again, I really enjoy having you guys here. If you guys like my video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, go ahead and give me a thumbs down and leave a comment in the comment section below explaining to me what I can go ahead and do better, or if you have requests for the next video or tutorials for that matter as well. Besides that, that's really all I have for you guys. I'm going to be paying attention to the market very closely. So happy trading.